Welcome to Koenigssee in Bavaria. It's the fourth race of the Men's Skeleton World Cup in the Viessmann FIBT Trail, and we are down in deepest, darkest Bavaria, close to the Austrian border, just outside the sliding centre of Berchtesgaden. Hello everybody, welcome to a, well, snowy and rainy Koenigssee. Raining at the finish area where we are, snowing at the start. My name's Martin Haven, athletes there sheltering after the women's race, the British team winner Lizzie Yarnold there. I'm delighted alongside me in the booth is World Cup rookie and race winner from Canada, Elizabeth Vache. Elizabeth, what about this Koenigssee track? What are the key areas for the athletes?
You start here and it's a really short start, so you have to make sure you land at the right time to get the most velocity going into curve one. Curve one, there's often a tendency to skid at the beginning, so you got to be really careful with that. You get into the S curves and you just want to get a lot of height and flow with it. The curves have a really cool feeling if you get it right. As you enter into S4, you go into long bend away. You need to take a tap about halfway down to get ready for Jenner. Jenner sets you up nicely for Kreisel. So this is Jenner, here's Kreisel. A lot of people get some high pressures down to the belly and up to the roof. You'll see people dropping their toes and sometimes skidding the sled. In the doodles is right here. They're tiny curves, and here we are. Next one, and then Echo Von, and then here's the long corner. And usually people take a tap, and then here we go. Yeah, so it's a short, quick track, and it's really fun. Yeah.
Climbing uphill to the finish, the last couple of corners. Track record set last season by Frank Rommel of Germany. That was in the European Championships. Rommel's last season on ice, that was, and he is now sitting at home like you guys, watching it on the TV. Martens and Thomas Dukurs, the first and second sliders in each of our three races so far this season, lead the World Cup from German rookie and youngster Alex Jung. Kilian von Schleilitz, another junior world champion, in fact the reigning world champion from Germany, just outside the top 10 in his debut season. So with a big step change in the men's program in Germany after the Olympic Games, lots of new names. We've got 28 sliders in our field this morning, so we've got a lot of athletes to get through. But Elizabeth, the big problem for half of them is, first of all, the weather is going to be very changeable. Secondly, only 20 of those 28 go through into Heat 2, so there's pressure right from the start for about half the field.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit tricky for some of them, especially as you're down on the bottom of the list. If it continues to snow up top, it's really detrimental to your speed as soon as you hit a bunch of snow.
We see there is the start area in this big start house. Carl Tress there, like all the others, limbering up, trying to get as loose as possible. The ideal is to be on your sled like a jelly mold. They are just using a little bit of abrasive paper there on the runners to make sure there's nothing illegal coating the runners to reduce the friction. Top of the track, first man on the ice will be Thomas Dukurs, rather, second in the World Cup standings with 3 silver medals so far this season. Matt-Antoine of the USA and the rest will follow him out at about a 2-minute interval, which means when you get down outside the top 20 with the 28 sliders, they are going to be a long way from the start, so the weather could change quite dramatically before we get this first heat done. Koenigssee in Bavaria, Martin Haven and Canadian race winner Elizabeth Vache watching the action. Race 4 of the Viessmann FIBT Skeleton Men's World Cup. Thomas Dukurs, 3 World Cup silver medals so far this season for the older of the 2 Latvian brothers.
That's a great start time for him, and going to curve 1. No real skid, and that's really nice.
Well, there's a little bit of falling snow at the top, Elizabeth. Really at slow speed like that, is that going to be a problem? Will it stick to the visor?
Yeah, it might stick a little bit to the visor. I know we wish we had windshield wipers going down when it's a rainy day, but it should be okay, I think.
Into the S-curves, nice lines, really important to set you up for the big Kreisel corner. 119.2, that's pretty decent speed.
Yeah, just a tiny tap out of Kreisel, but it wasn't too bad at all. He's looking very good.
1:15.1 will compare and contrast. First on the ice can be a disadvantage, but as the weather changes, might end up being an advantage for him. 51.32, track record 50.64. Well, yesterday in the afternoon in the women's bobsleigh, we saw 3 competitors break the outstanding track record, and we got very close in the women's skeleton race as well.
Yesterday was really quick. He has a very nice line in Kreisel, not a lot of pointed down to the belly and down to the roof. Keeps it very parallel and very nice.
The Ducos brothers always have excellent form. Heels together, nicely aerodynamic. What about the exit?
He just got a tiny tap, just came out just a little bit too early, wasn't able to hold on to the curve, but he was able to maintain it well in the doodles.
Looks relatively happy with that. Next up, 29-year-old American slider Matt Antoine from Wisconsin, hometown Prairie du Chien. One day I'm going to look up what the population is and then try and estimate what percentage of them are watching this young man every time he slides. It is actually starting to look like proper snow now at the top of the track. Outside our window, right where they finish, it is still rain. Well, the vertical drop here is 132 meters. It's ridiculous that half a kilometer away and 100 meters lower, we've got a different weather system. A bit of AC/DC at the top of the track to set him on his way. Not quite sure what the relevance of that is. Just 600 slower than Thomas Ducours.
Yeah, Matt Antoine's coming off of a knee surgery from a couple of seasons ago, and he's coming back stronger every year, and so it's exciting to see him get faster again on his start.
Yeah.
Comes out, oh, a little bit of a skid there. The ice is quite hard today, skidding a little bit all over the place, but it's not too bad.
Well, the corners, as you can see, are covered, but the straightaway particularly is open to the rain. So is that going to make it more slippery?
Yeah, it can make it a little bit more skiddy and a little bit more difficult to handle, but he seems to be okay. Just
about a kilometer an hour down. 3/10 behind, down through the final corners and then uphill to the finish line. That makes any touch at the bottom double jeopardy, because not only do you lose speed, but you're going uphill and you lose twice as much. Downhill racing often features uphill sections. Not quite sure why that is, but there you go.
Here he comes. He comes a little bit close to that right wall and tries to keep away from it, and it just puts him into a bit of a skid. He took that tap. Yeah, he's looking in pretty good form. The first one, he doesn't need his toe. A little bit of a toe tap there. A little bit late, but that's okay. He catches it again at the bottom.
Saw him there inclining his head. He used the head to steer, the shoulders, the knees, and the toes. The whole body moves on the skeleton sled. Willi Schneider, the coach, holding the sled for Alexander Tretyakov, our Olympic champion, our world champion, the 29-year-old Russian rocket.
He's always been so quick on the start, and it's really cool to see him come as a driver. That's great.
See very clear tracks the sled is leaving on the ice, though, and that means that he's cutting through a little bit of snow, but still up by 1300s.
And he's getting nice height in the S-curves. Very nice out of just a little bit of a skid. Relax into it.
1400s up, coming into the Kreisel, and not as quick as Thomas Ducours, almost a kilometer down.
He held onto that curve a little bit too long, and the doodles kind of got him a bit.
1300s of the lead, could be down to single digits by the next clock. 113.9, Ducours was 115.
He's got 400s in the bank, not too much.
He'll be in the red at the line.
Yep.
So he drops behind Thomas Ducours.
By 500s, that's
yeah. We've got a race on our hands. Well, Tretyakov has always been the fastest starter since the day he arrived in World Cup. Now he can really handle that pace, but he just got away a fraction. I wonder whether that's the weather.
Yeah, here he comes on. Just holds on just a little bit too much to Kreisel and gets stuck on the doodles. And the second one kind of tosses him just a little bit. He thought he was clear of it, skid there, hits the back bumper, and kind of shoots him up.
For most, that would be a pretty clear trip there. You want to trickle right down the center like a little rivulet. We might see a little rivulet before the day's out. 35-year-old Canadian from Brampton, Ontario, Dave Grechechin. 6th in the World Cup standing so far. This is his rookie season. 8th in the 2 North American races, 13th in a tricky Altenburg. And when you start sliding in Canada, Elizabeth, like you, like Dave, and then you come to Europe, you have significantly less knowledge of the tracks.
Yeah, he's actually been here quite a few times and competing on Europa Cup. He's quite excited for this season, I know. Oh, that's a pretty good start for him. Grizz, as we call him, as he has a big grizzly bear on his helmet.
Not because he is a big grizzly bear, obviously.
No, he's quite kind. I like him. actually. Oh, a little bit of a skid.
Well, not a bad exit from S4 though, right down the middle of the track.
The bend away is getting a lot of people there. He's a big guy, so he gets quite a bit more height than a lot of other people. Dragon toes. Not bad. Pretty good during the doodles.
0.49 back. 1:14.4, little quicker than Matt Antoine and than Tretyakov. And that is going to stop him losing too much more time to the line. 52.09. Leader 51.3. I think we're going to see a lot of sliders who don't manage quite such a neat and tidy run.
Yeah, we're going to see people all over the board this race. The weather is really playing with them. It's different than it has been in training all week.
Love that helmet design. Maple leaf on the side, the big grizzly bear on the top of the helmet coming towards us.
Here he comes out of the S-curve. You can see tiny skid break out there, and as he hits the wall, he's absorbing it okay. And into Kreisley. The first pressure, he just lets it get away from him a little bit, drops his toe there, trying to prevent it from going to the roof.
Well, right up there would be Frosty, and that sticks to the runners and just slows you down a little. So there is Grizz. Next up is the 2012 Junior World Champion in men's skeleton, Axel Junk. And he's being personally coached by Dirk Matchens, who viewers with long memories will remember as a standout in the German sliding team as well. 4th, 5th, 4th this season, yet to claim a medal for Germany in World Cup sliding.
I know he's itching for a medal, that's for sure. There he goes, nice in the middle into the S-curves, already a little bit behind.
Well, don't forget, Thomas Ducour started 472, but he's a bigger, stronger athlete perhaps, and just carries a fraction more momentum.
He had a nice exit out of S4 and a tiny skid after the tap, but not too bad at all. Coming into Kreisley, he has a fantastic line, actually. He's able
Second
to
fastest.
There we go, nice and middle into the doodles.
3rd place at the moment. This is a nice, tidy-looking run from Axel Junk, beg your pardon. 1:14.7 again, that's good speed. The Germans should be good on this track. He's having a nice run, 3rd place, 51.60.
Yeah, that's a fantastic run for him. I think he should be happy with that.
Well, the top two, Thomas Ducours and Alexander Tretyakov, separated by 500ths of a second. Axel Junk is 2800ths back in 3rd place.
There he goes on the start, just loading right on. There's a little dip that's ideal to land on, and he looks to be right on it. Relaxing into his sled, getting ready for his run.
Little shuffle. There's always a little wriggle to get yourself perfectly placed, right? You never hit it exactly how you need to.
No, sometimes you got to move a little bit forward, a little back.
Thomas Ducours, Alexander Tretyakov lead after the first 5 of our 28 sleds in Koenigssee. Koenigssee, Bavaria, round 4 of the Skeleton Men's World Cup. Don Parsons of Great Britain, the Bromley Sports-sponsored athlete, 9th in the World Cup this season. Watching the action as he gets ready to take on this track, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me, Canada's race winner in Calgary, Elizabeth Vache. Elizabeth, still snowing at the top, still raining here at the bottom.
It's incredibly bizarre, actually. That's a pretty good start.
4:76 getaway, that's a couple of hundreds quicker than Matt Antoine, who currently lies in 4th place. And the worry with falling snow, especially when it's half rain, half snow, is that it'll stick to the visor and reduce visibility. When you're doing 70 miles an hour head first, that's a problem, but seems to be okay at the moment.
Yeah, it seems to be okay. I know it's annoying when the snow gets to your visor, and then you just got to trust feel, unfortunately. But on the right side, was able to get the last doodle straight.
Well, that's going to rob him of speed. Top speed at the bottom, 1:15.1. 1:14.5, not bad still.
No, he's holding it on pretty good considering.
Well, he's moved up, in fact, from 4th to 3rd place despite that hit. Just slips back to 4th. There's yesterday's race winner, Elizabeth Yarnold, the Olympic champion.
Yeah, that was great for him. He's on a brand new sled this year, and it's working really well. And yeah he's working alongside Bromley's, and it's going good.
Well, he's kind of your teammate in that aspect, coached as well by Richard Bromley.
Yeah,
with Bromley Tech sled.
He's a quick starter, and It's a little bit harder on these shorter tracks. The starts are a lot closer than on the longer ones.
Had a bronze medal in the World Cup in Calgary last year. It was his best ever result. Hits the short wall here.
Just drops out of Kreisel with a pretty abrupt angle.
That leaves Dom Parsons of Great Britain in 4th position. 300s out of the medals at the moment. Lots of sleds still to go. 7th on the ice is German soldier Christopher Grother, the 22-year-old, 15th in Lake Placid, just off the medals, 4th in Calgary, back down to 12th after a very disappointing Altenburg. Winterberg, his home track, will go there for the World Championships February into March. Oh, and a skid just as he's trying to load.
Yeah, just missed his hand spot a little bit, and a little skid out of the groove too, pulled him a little
Well, his foot slipped on the ice. Now that is undercover, so that's not an effect of the weather, I guess.
No, it was just, unfortunately, a driver error.
Well, that's cost him already. Not only is he down by 1/3 of a second, he's down on speed as well.
Yeah, he's got tiny skids in there.
1:17.1. Actually, given that lack of momentum at the start, that's still not bad, but he's fighting the sled through the Kreisel.
Yeah, he looks to be okay through the doodles. A tiny skid, extra Kreisel, but not bad. The ice has really gotten harder in comparison to training, so it really is, I think, throwing these athletes for a little bit of a loop.
He's found more speed down at the bottom, but is that enough to bring him back up the order any? Will he be in front of Dave Kwiecień of Canada? He is not, 52.10. Well, that's one of the aspects of this sport. You're sprinting on sheet ice, downhill, faster than you would run on the flat, and then you're trying to hurl yourself onto the sled. Eventually, you're going to skid a bit.
Yeah, trying to land on the sled is sometimes a bit difficult.
We'll see what that's done to his body language. Looks very disappointed with that. Hundreds of needle spikes on the bottom of the shoes.
There you go, you can see there. Just a bit of an extra foot that he didn't quite need, and his hand misses the sled just a bit. And trying to get settled after that is so difficult. Pulls him so left going into one, and that's not what you want right out of the groove.
Well, is settling the body the issue there, or is it settling the mind after you've had a dramatic shock at the start? Whatever, next up is the man who we should expect to be our leader after the first heat. He's not always won here. He crashed out trying for gold a couple of years back. 30-year-old Latvian legend Martin Stukos, unbeaten so far this season.
Yeah, it's another great start for him. He's such a savant on the sled. It's actually really incredible to watch him slide.
See, I look at Martin Stukos and I don't see him doing anything. As a slider, what can you pick out of what he is doing?
Sometimes you can see his feet move just a little bit. You can see it dancing behind him on the straight, but it's hard to pick out what they're doing.
Everybody else swivels dramatically from the hips. With him, it's just a little shimmy.
Yeah, dropped a little bit of a toe, but it's not dramatic. Tiny tap on the right side, but not too bad.
Still behind his brother for the first time this year. Brother went first. Thomas leads. Martin's 1100s back. He's not going to be second. Trechikov is only 500s off the lead. Wow, 51.47. Yeah. Well, listen. Normally you'd say, okay, we've got a real race on our hands. I did say, as she started yesterday, Alana Myers-Taylor, undefeated so far this season. That didn't pan out well.
No, it's a bit of a tricky track. You can see his toe just tapping there, but it's not dramatic at all. In form, right back on par. Drops the toe again, and right back onto his perfect form. Tiny tap out of Kreisel, but it wasn't too bad. A little bit of a skid, just relaxes into it, and you got to keep going.
Well, Martin Stukos is going to have to try extra hard in the second heat, and that always means drama.
Yeah, it's great how close this race is going to be.
Next up, from Nagano in Japan, 30-year-old Hiro Takahashi. Started his sporting career in baseball, which is, I guess, aside from golf, Japan's biggest sport bar none. And then converted, being a Nagano guy, into skeleton. 12th and 11th in North America, 7th last week in Altenburg. Clearly he responds well to a driver's track. got a really interesting style when he loads. He sort of half loads and then allows himself to sink onto the sled. It's quite different.
Yeah, he kind of like loads with his knee first to try to get the most momentum going into the start, down onto the sled and into the track. A little tiny skid at ice forward tap there.
Well, about on a par with Canada's Dave Krejcichin, right with him on the start, right with him at the moment as well. 1:17.8.
Drops.
And you can hear some of the steering on the ice now that it's nice and crisp as well. Now that's the lowest speed we've seen through the exit of the Kreisel. Seventh place at the line, just in front of Dave Krejcichin of Canada by 7/100ths of a second. So already there's a good little battle shaping up because Christopher Groothair is 1/100th behind Dave Krejcichin. So we've got three of, what have we got now? 9 athletes down, covered by 7/100ths of a second, 8/100ths of a second.
Yeah, it's crazy. The short track makes it for a good race. No, his knee onto the sled. As he's looking into corner one, just getting ready for his run, relaxing and making sure that he's got it ready to go. You can see the lines behind his sled. As he goes into Kreisel, great form. Drops his toe very dramatically and gets ready for continuing on.
Chrome Dome, Matthias Guggenberger of Austria. 30-year-old from Innsbruck, 4th in the World Cup rankings at the moment. 9th, 8th and 7th his results so far this season.
Yeah, that's a pretty good start and getting ready. Nice height in S2, nice height in S3. Tiny skids, but that seems to be what everyone is doing. Actually, he's got quite a few bigger ones.
We come out of the dry in the S's and then onto the very slick wet straightaway, and suddenly the grip level must vanish.
Yeah, it looks like a natural spritz. Nice and middle out of Kreisel.
Pretty decent speed. Guggenberger 5th at the start, 7th place at the moment. He's going to fall into that battle with Takahashi, Krejcichin, and Christopher Groothair of Germany.
I know they do a fair amount of training here because it's not far from their home track, and they just really get well on this track.
That's not a bad run at all. Another slider goes into 7th place. Now he is about halfway between Matt Antoine in 5th and Hiro Takahashi in 8th.
Nice quick start. Loads with his knee again, just trying to get the most momentum going into the sled. Just a little bit too much height, and I'd say an Echo able to control it.
Well, there he is, coming back down into the finish area. Bit of a drizzly morning here in Koenigssee, Bavaria. Thomas Dukurs of Latvia leads from Olympic champion Alexander Tretyakov. Martins Dukurs, undefeated this season, lies in 3rd place. 10 of our 28 sleds already down here in Koenigssee, Bavaria. Next up, our 11th starter of the day, Nikita Tregibov of Russia. 6th in the Winter Olympic Games, despite having never raced at World Cup level. This is only his 2nd World Cup race. Hey everybody, I'm Martin Haven. Alongside me, race winner in Calgary, Elizabeth Vache of Canada. Elizabeth, like you, making his World Cup debut this season, but he missed the North American races.
Yeah, they stayed in and did the ICC races and got an extra week here. I think it's really been able to help them.
Well, 100th in front of the leader at the start, but didn't carry the momentum down into the S-bends.
Able to fix his skids really easily, just dropping the toes. Becomes natural to stop the skids.
Only one slider faster into the Kreisel, and that was the race leader.
Nice in middle, he's only 300ths back, that's really tight.
Like Yelena Nikitina when she was 19 and burst on the World Cup scene, this is a sensational run, 1:15.6, fastest speed we've seen at the bottom. He's closing on the leader. He could be on the top of the leaderboard at the line. Wow, 51.34.
Look at Willie, he's excited.
Yeah, Coach Snyder And this young man is just 19 years old. He's not 20 until Valentine's Day. He's only going to get faster physically as well as mentally.
Yeah, that's an incredible showing.
Wow. Nikita Tregebov then within a whisker of the lead.
Nice quick start. All the Russians have figured out the start, and they're really getting that good.
So Thomas Tuchus leads by 200s from Nikita Tregebov.
Yeah, he's a fair amount lower than the previous slider. He's a big guy, and he's able to continue with his speed down the bottom of the track.
Fastest man into the Kreisel, fastest man out of the labyrinth. Wow. Yeah, the track is still giving up speed to those that know where to dig. What about Sergei Chudinov, his teammate? Could we get 3 Russians in the top 4? 31 years old now from Chusavoy. He was 5th in the Winter Games.
Nice and quick onto his sled. Him and Nikitina have matching helmets, so that's cute.
Yeah. His is blue, hers is pink. Well,
yeah.
You know, boy, girl.
Yeah, just in case we forgot.
Not sure you'd mistake Yelena Nikitina for Chudi.
I don't think so either.
Even in the darkest room.
Quick little skids, but it's not seeming to throw him off at all.
And good speed as well, 1:17.5. I mean, nothing like Tregebov.
Yeah, that second pressure, he's skidding, just skid into the first doodle.
If you take the top 3 out, this is a very competitive run. Or it was at the start. Now down to 10th, 11th place. Oh, it's all ebbing away. Now, all 3 Russians are on Willy Schneider sleds. They started relatively similarly, but I'm assuming that his personal preference of setup has really not worked for him here because he's a long way shy of the other 2.
Yeah, he had some pretty major skids, but he was, just wasn't able to control them and put him out just a bit. Comes a little bit close to that right wall, is able to just keep off it, but puts himself into his skid instead. He hits that right wall, or that left wall, sorry, and just puts him in more of skids.
Well, Chudi was just breaking into the top flight of Russian sliders when Alexander Tretyakov came along and rather overshadowed his efforts, and now it seems young Tregebov is doing the same to both of them.
Yeah, that's a fantastic run for Tretyakov. He has to be proud of that.
Kyle Dress of the USA, we saw him warming up earlier, 33-year-old from Lambertville, New Jersey. Well, he had a really strong run in training and a good race in Lake Placid as well. 5th position finish. He needs to try and find some of that form again here today on race day.
Well, the groove spin him a little bit right. He was able to straighten it back up.
Exeter Kreisel was his nemesis in training.
Let's see what it's doing. Well, it pulls him a little bit too right, but
quite a big hit there in
2
second.
hits, a little skid.
Into the Kreisel we go. 1:15.8 speed is way down, and maybe that's why it's harder to control the sled on the exit.
That's going to get him on the second doodle.
109 kilometers at the bottom of the track. That's a long way shy of anyone else. Well, top of the track, he's got nailed. From the Kreisel on down, though, it's still eluding him, I'm afraid. 52.93, 13th place at the moment. We're nearly halfway through our field at 28. And now, I guess Kyle is a little bit in a position where he's going to have to wait to see whether he gets another run.
Yeah, he's going to be a little bit bummed out about that run. Kreisel just gets picked up again. It's almost like an extra pressure and into that wall. It'll do that to a lot of athletes. Kreisel is a really hard corner here.
And we're talking about a 1/10 of a second misjudgment in steering there has such a big effect.
Oh, exactly. And if your body's not quite tuned to it, it's really tricky to get that steer.
And the visual markers aren't there the way in Altenburg for getting out either. So halfway through our 28-strong field is local hero Kilian von Schleinitz, just 20 years old, reigning junior world champion. And his brother Julian also races for Germany in their World Cup luge squad. So 2 highly overachieving young Bavarians. From Berchtesgaden, about 2 miles up the road. 9th place last week in Altenburg.
pretty good start for him. He's just new in the sport, young in the sport, and it's great to see him mature and have a great result last year at Junior Worlds, and it'll be at the same track World Championships as that this year, so that'll be a great race for him.
This is home ice for him. Sleeps in his own bed. Mum and Dad are here. The rest of the family are here. It's a very long-standing family name.
Nice for size of pressure.
Good speed. Lots of dragging, either the chin on the ice or the toes on the ice, one or the other, possibly both. 1:14.5 is good speed at the bottom as well. From 10th at the start, up to 9th place, could pick up a couple more. Is he going to be right in that midfield tussle? Yes, he is. 500s behind Guggenberger, 8th to 9th. Well, again, like Nikita Tregibov, still very young, only just 20. So lots more time for development in this kid.
Yeah, it's an interesting year for World Cup with all these new development World Cup sliders. It's cool to see how it's going to be for the next 4 years. He kind of runs a little bit away from his sled, but it's not too bad. Quick, powerful steps and then getting settled onto your sled, getting ready for the track.
I wonder how they chose which one went to skeleton, which one went to luge. Presumably, Kilian's got bigger thighs and Julian, his brother's got bigger shoulders.
Rock, paper, scissors too, maybe.
Yeah, might be that. It's like Raphael and Benny Meyer in Austria. Their father coaches the bobsleigh team. Benny slides for the bobsleigh, Raphael does skeleton. It's a family business. And this is Raphael Meyer, 22-year-old from Innsbruck. They have a sister at home, and I said, oh, so what does she do? Oh, she doesn't compete at all.
Cheers from back home.
Yeah. 4:89 getaway, that's a 10th slower than Kilian von Steinitz we've just seen.
Go nice and high in the S curves. You just want to flow with the curves. It's a really cool feeling when you get that right. Oh, tiny tap on the right.
Swiveling from the hips to try and correct those little skids before they break out. 1:18.2, that's very good speed into the Kreisel.
Nice and flat, middle exit, that's great.
15th fastest starter. He is slight and not the fastest, but he's up to 13th place, and the doodles went well. Very good speed at the bottom as well.
He's able to hold on to that speed as it goes a little bit uphill.
Still doing 71 miles an hour, head first. 9th place, well, he recovered well from what wasn't the greatest start. 400s in front of Kilian von Steinitz for 9th, and 100th behind teammate Matthias Guggenberger, who's in 8th. Now that's going to be a good second heat battle between two teammates.
Yeah, it's always cool to have a close race with your teammate, that's for sure.
Especially when you win, right?
Yeah, I'm just kidding. It's great to see them do well too.
Especially when you win.
Yeah. Nice sweeping curves. Nice height. You want to get really high to get a nice entrance into S4. Just shoots them out just a little bit to the right. It was sending a lot of athletes that way this week.
Thomas Dukos leads from two Russians, Nikita Tregibov ahead of the Olympic champion Alexander Tretiakov. We have had 15 of our 28 sliders down in Koenigssee. Koenigssee, Bavaria, first heat of the race here, Men's Skeleton World Cup, and the Korean Sung Bin Young next on the ice, the man who claimed his country's first ever winter sliding medal when he took the bronze in Calgary just under a month ago. Rainy conditions here in Koenigssee. Martin Haven alongside me, race winner in Calgary, Elizabeth Varche, and he is in the lead off that epic start.
Yeah, that was a fantastic start. He's been training really well this week. He's just such a young slider. He's only 20 as well, so it's cool to see him be able to come into for Korea and represent them so well.
4th in the first slide in Lake Placid on his World Cup debut, but then DQ'd because he didn't have his numbered vest on. So he could have been on the podium in the first two North American races, just 900s behind. This is challenging for the medals again on a track that he really does not know at all.
Yeah, he had about a week here in the start of the season to try to get the track, but Kreisel was really throwing him all over the place.
Well, below the Kreisel, not so great, but at the top, really strong. I do like the Iron Man helmet as well. Clearly got a bit of a handle on irony too. Good run into 7th place for Sun Bin Young.
Yeah, And on his saddle, he has Batman tape, too. He's a real superhero fan. Such a quick starter. Korea's really trying to get these people in and just be quick starters and teach them how to drive. And they've been able to do that with him. His helmet is fantastic. It's probably my favorite on tour. Have a little bit of Iron Man out there.
Well, the Russians showed with Alexander Tretyakov that you can turn a sprinter into a racer. Next up for Italy, 21-year-old Mattia Gaspari. It's only his second World Cup race this season. The Italians, like a lot of European nations, and like the top stream of Russian sliders, stayed in Europe before Christmas, didn't go to Lake Placid and Calgary.
Yeah, it made those races not as dense, that's for sure.
Also helps keep the budget in check. First year after the World Cup, all the federations, after the Olympics, all the federations suddenly realized they spent a lot of money on champagne in Russia and they haven't got as much for the athletes.
His chin was nice and low to the ice in that good aerodynamic form. Just looking away, trying to track his eyes on where he wants to go.
The Italian program relatively small in terms of ice sliding. Of course, formerly two tracks in Italy, Cortina and Cesana, the 2006 Torino Games track, both of them now closed, so they have no home ice.
Yeah, they end up spending a lot of time on these other European tracks.
Well, I'm not old enough to remember Cervinia. Some in the truck maybe, but that's just a little bit. I'll ask my dad. He probably remembers that. Cervinia was one of the last of the natural tracks, and of course the last extant natural track is St. Moritz. We're heading there right after this race weekend. And for those of you back home in Canada watching on Sportsnet, wondering why Elizabeth not sliding, a little bit of a concussion after Altenburg, but you'll be back in St. Moritz, right?
Yeah, I've been cleared to slide, so I'm looking forward to get back on the sled. I'm just itching to get sliding again.
Well, everybody's always itching to get to St. Moritz, whether they're sliding or just loafing around, watching and reporting eagerly from the sidelines. So Mattia Gaspari comes down in 16th place. And Kyle Tress still 0.8 of a second between him and Gaspari. Tress really in danger of not making the race. 16th of our starters, I beg your pardon, 18th of our starters is Ed Smith of Great Britain. Been having a little struggle to find his form this season. 18th of 28, and Elizabeth, now everybody is really focusing on trying to make the second heat. That's your first priority.
Yeah, and you know, he's been struggling with an injury this week, so his start isn't quite where he'd want it to be. That's really difficult on this track, that's so short and the start is so integral.
Well, he has been a very quick starter, and that's just not been there this season. He's really not found that speed yet, and so the injury is still a legacy, and as you say, on a short track, that can be a problem. Not a bad run, though, down the bend away.
He's looking good, nice and low in the first pressure.
491 is slower than anybody started, so he needs a really good run through the doodles, down the middle, letting the legs sway around behind.
Yeah, it's hard to keep your legs together during that part of the track, that's for sure.
113.2. This should just put him in front of Kyle Tress of the USA, which gives him a little bumper. Only 17th place, 52.43. And the big problem now for Don Parsons is that everything is coming in at a bit of a rush, and there's no time for recovery in between the races. Ed Smith, rather. So lots of them sliding straight through the finish and up the hill.
Yeah, it's like they're getting a natural spritz in the finish, which isn't good for slowing down.
Down through the doodles,
yeah,
pretty much down the middle.
Yeah, it is down the middle, just legs swaying all over the place.
I think he was letting the sled follow his eyes and
yeah, you can see he's limping a bit.
Yeah, it really is. And actually, if he makes a second heat, that might be a bit of a problem. Saturday morning in rainy Koenigssee, Bavaria. We're in the first heat of two of the Men's Skeleton World Cup. Big crowds here. And this is Evan Neufeld of Canada, one of your teammates, Elizabeth Varche. Young man, new to the World Cup. Didn't compete in the two races in Lake Placid and Calgary, so getting his start in Altenburg. That's a tough baptism.
Yeah, you did pretty good. I mean, for your first time ever to Altenburg, it was fantastic. His wife at home was watching, the lovely Alex. Oh, just a little bit over the sled on his load, but was able to recover well.
From Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, and 4:76, a very quick start from him.
Yeah, he's a former track athlete. Fell with the skills in.
From the flattest province in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Good for track, not great for mountain sports.
Not too bad over there. Some small skids, but he's maintaining well.
Top 10 run at the moment, 9th place into the Kreisel, and very good speed, 1:17.4.
Just a tiny 2 taps.
But tidies it up at the bottom of the doodles. What's the speed on the exit? 1:14. Oh, 1:11. I'm afraid he's going to drop a little further now. Down to 10th, down to 17th. That's what that big hit did for him.
Yeah, he's been struggling here.
Well, that's effectively standing on the brake pedal, isn't it? 700s behind Ed Smith.
He should be happy with his start in the beginning of the track, but it's so hard to put together a run after Kreisel here sometimes.
Well, right to the exit of Kreisel, he was nailed on for a top 10 run. And that hurts mentally as well as physically.
Yeah, it does. Just hits the right wall and then comes off, ricochets and hits the left wall.
So is he steering too late off there or too early? How's that?
He's coming off the corner too early. So sometimes you just want to get off that curve because it's kind of a bugger and it just pushes you into that right wall. That's not a fun hit to take.
17th place for 18th place for Ed Neufeld. There's our World Cup leader. Looks a little young for this sport, however. Next up, Yuki Sasahara of Japan. Our 20th slider. Everybody is safely down so far, and that means after Yuki, the race is full. For the remaining 8 athletes, it's go fast or go home. Oh, our cameraman Edwin pointing out something stuck on his back to
Looks like a
Coach
foot warmer.
Koshi. Maybe it's a little note taped on in the dressing room that said "kick me," like at school, right?
Yeah. It's a very nice helmet, a beautiful paint job on it, nice and silver.
Yeah, I'm not sure quite where it comes from. It always looks to me a little bit like it's a kind of samurai look.
Yeah, I'm not too sure either, but it's really sharp looking. Everyone's struggling in that bend away with tiny skids.
1:16.9, a little low on speed, same as Ed Smith.
Just gets stuck on that left wall, able to thread the doodles pretty good.
1:12 at the bottom, and that is bad news. He's going to slump down towards the bottom of the field. 19th place, he's in front of Kyle Tress, who had an even worse run off the Kreisel. 52.6 for him. Okay, so 20 sleds in the heat.
Yeah, it's a really difficult place to be in, right on that bubble.
I wonder whether we're going to see Yuki Sasahara again. His teammate is in 12th, so he will make the second heat.
Comes out just a little bit abruptly, and you're trying not to hit that wall.
Look at that.
As you hit the bumps, it kind of lifts your shoulders. There's an expansion joint. It just takes you a little bit off your sled. Steering into that wall.
Clearing off a little bit of slush and snow down on the bend away. See how close the spectators are. That's almost right behind our box. Curve 10, the Jena curve, is right behind us. And the wall there is not even knee height on an adult. 20 down, 8 still to come to make a field of 20. Australia's John Farrow, the first, who must go fast or go home. Still recovering from horrendous injury a couple of years ago in training. Last year he returned to racing with a cast on his foot that he had to wear the whole time while sliding. Now trying to rebuild. He's got more surgery scheduled for the summer to try and get some articulation and some control back in his foot.
Yeah, he's a fantastic driver, and once he gets his start back, it's going to be a dangerous situation for other athletes, that's for sure.
At the moment, his foot almost kind of flops because it's just not got the tendon control it needs, and that makes sprinting near impossible.
Yeah, to get that dorsiflex is real difficult without that.
Well, he's funding his own program, and that's something that's familiar to the Canadians at the moment, and he's also funding Coach Brian Voigt to come out and be with him on the European Trail.
Yeah, it's cool to see them being able to work together, and Australia having the program's gone a little bit smaller this year.
Yeah, definitely. Australians, due to sport, targeted, there's Coach Brian, targeted skeleton in the run-up to Torino. as a low input for high result sport. And I guess they decided they weren't getting the results that they really wanted. Well, he is in the race.
Tiny tap on that wall. The guys are a little bit bigger than their bumpers, so often their shoulders will hit the wall and get some pretty nice bruises, that's for sure.
Southern Cross on the helmet. Star constellation navigators use. Thomas Ducour's our race leader. John Farrow is in the race, and he has bumped Kyle Tress out. 7 still to come here in Koenigssee. Next of our go fast, go homes is Barrett Martineau of Canada. Big hi to teammate Kevin Boyer, who's watching, I'm sure, in Eagles, Austria. He was second in the Europa Cup race in Samoritz just a couple of days ago. His first big result in men's skeleton.
Yeah, it was a fantastic result for him. And Barrett also has a bear on his helmet. His nickname is Bear.
Yeah, Bear Barrett. School kids aren't wildly inventive, are they, often?
Not really. He's a former ski jumper, and he started skeleton after the 2010 Olympics, and has just been able to pick up the sport.
He's not the only former ski jumper. Raphael Meyer was a ski jumper at school as well. Turned to something slightly safer, in my eyes anyway.
I think so too.
Good speed as well into the Kreisel. He's 17th at the moment off 14th best start. Good exit here required to make the cut. He's on target.
Yeah, he had a very nice exit out of Kreisel. He was able to thread the doodles very nicely.
Still 17th, and this is going to bump John Farrow out of the race. He's not guaranteed a second heat, but it's a neat and tidy run. If he can finish in 17th, and he does.
That's fantastic.
Yep, that should see him through with a bit of luck and a following wind. Incidentally, heads up to...
Oh, there he goes. He wanted to do his shoot into the cameras.
All right, okay. Heads up to Jack Thomas from Great Britain. T-Trade Jack won his first ever Europa Cup race in Samoritz a few days ago, and he'll be racing in Eagles next week.
There we go. Some nice height going into S3. Nice into S4, just able to flow with the curves. Just inching away from that one wall. Taking the tap, trying not to put it in too big of a skid. There, smiles, good. He's
liking
happy.
that, and he's in the race at the moment with 6 still to go. Next up is Switzerland's Ronald Ardeset. Incidentally, the 4-man race in Switzerland in Europa Cup cancelled today. They cancelled races last weekend because it was too warm. Today, too much snow. So it might be winter wonderland when we get to the Engadine Valley next week. They had 2 meters of snow overnight. That's what the Alps needs right now. Everybody's begging for snow.
Great for snowman building,
Yes,
not great for sliding.
Well, it'll have stopped. It'll be gorgeous and sunny, I predict it. 484 start, 16th place. So Ardeset might make the race from here if he gets a good exit to the Kreisel and here out of S4.
Yeah, nice and keeping him on the right wall.
He was up to 14th out of S4.
A little bit of height on the exit of Jenner. Crosses a little bit dramatically into Kreisel.
Decent enough speed. Oh.
Tapping in the doodles is really not fun because it'll set you up for the next curve.
Okay, dropping now to 17th place, 20th place. John Farrow's already out. It's either now he stays in or no, he drops out. Yuki Sasahara on the bubble remains in the race. And we've seen a few times, haven't we, Elizabeth? One hit in the doodles is going to wipe off your speed.
Yeah, there's a timing eye right out of Kreisel, so they can look really good out of Kreisel, take a couple taps, and it really is detrimental to the bottom of the track. Just dropping out of Kreisel, hitting the right wall. Just, you can see him get a little bit airborne even. Dragging the toes to try and stop from hitting the left wall there. When you get high on the doodles, your legs swing like a pendulum.
Yep.
They're kind of hard to deal with.
And that's a sign that gravity has got you rather than the other way around. Well, a little bit of a wry smile from Ronald Ardeset. I'm sure he'll be smiling a lot more when we get to Samoritz next week.
I think we all will. Samoritz is amazing.
Giovanni Molisano of Italy, next up, works for the Polizia Penitenziari, the prison service in Italy. 3rd full season in World Cup coming up here, although I guess if he missed North America, it's not quite the full season.
Oh, the groove just pulled him a little bit right. That's really crappy. It's so out of your control.
One of the tallest athletes in the field. 1m83 is about 6'1" or 2.
Oh, took an extra couple of taps.
1:13. Goodness, where's the speed?
Just waving a little bit too much in Königssee. Sometimes when your back end breaks out, it's like windshield wipers.
Well, 20th fastest start, 24th into the Kreisel. I'm afraid that Giovanni is not going to make the race. 1:08.7 at the bottom. I'm afraid that is horribly slow. Something has gone badly awry. I'm sure it was just the taps down the straight. I'm sure that his setup is working at all for him today. Whatever he's tried on the sled has definitely not worked.
Kreisel is really a make or break here. It's such a tricky curve to get down cleanly. There he is on the start, loading at the perfect time, just when that little dip goes before it flattens out again.
4:88, only 20th fastest start. Always going to leave him with a lot of work to do.
Just pulling him back into the corner. He tried to exit a little bit too early and it just pulled him back in.
Up on the wall, high drama. Ciao Giovanni, everybody see him in St Moritz next week. Now next up, Rhys Thornberry from New Zealand. So the young Kiwi slider, first Racing World Cup was last week in Altenburg. Comes from Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire, where he's an armaments technician for the Royal Air Force. 4:86 start, 20th fastest getaway.
He was here for the ICC earlier in the year and was able to get a couple more runs on this track and just get ready for the World Cup season.
Coached by former Kiwi slider Ben Sanford. And if Rhys makes the race, it'll be John Morgan in the booth for the second heat. If Rhys doesn't make the race, it'll be Ben Sanford. 1:15.6, little better than Giovanni Mulisano. He's dropped out of the top 20 though.
Came up pretty middle out of Kreisel, so that should help him a little bit on the bottom of the track.
I wonder if 1:11.2 is enough to get into the top 20. He's picked up one spot to 22nd. Will he get in front of Yuki Sasahara? That rub on the wall says no, I'm afraid. 52.86. Well, only been sliding for 2 seasons at any level. First year was just a few races. Last year, an almost complete Europa Cup campaign. And now in the World Cup, filling New Zealand's place vacated by Ben Sanford.
Yeah, it just comes off just a little bit too early and bumps him right into that right wall. A couple athletes are just struggling with S4, and it's really throwing them into the long bend away.
This is so like driving a race car. It's all about rhythm. It's all about minutiae. Rhys doesn't make the race. Thomas Ducour's the race leader, though, from Russians Nikita Tregibov and Alexander Tretyakov. We still have 3 more sleds to go in the first of our 2 heats here in Koenigssee, Bavaria. 26th of our 28 starters is Spain's Ander Mirambel from Barcelona. Big fan of Espanyol, Barca's second team, and trains with them. A lot of crunch matches coming up for Espanyol at the moment as well in the Cup and in the league.
We got a new helmet paint job this year, and it's really cool. It's got some camouflage and some really bright yellow on it.
Great looking race suit as well he's got. Now let's see if he can find the speed. Only 24th at the start.
Oh, huge skid into that tab.
Spent a lot of time in the past racing and training with the Bromley family. High waves in the Kreisel, needs a good exit here. 1:16.8 wasn't bad speed going in, but it's all gone, and he hangs on desperately.
You can have a not bad exit at Kreisel, and that second doodle can really toss you if you're not prepared for it. You shouldn't be hurt, it's just a little bit of bruises.
Barely enough speed to get to the finish line. Does get a finish, but he won't be in the second heat.
That's really unfortunate.
Martin Rettel helping out with the coaching, and we're going to see him climb off and have to walk it up to the end. He's going to be pretty sore after that. Just as well we're going to St. Moritz and not Altenburg.
Yeah. Just comes out a little bit on that left wall and just misses a tap. But that first doodle hits him on the right wall and just angles him into that second one.
Well, that's the crash that all skeleton sliders fear down there in the doodles. Martins Dukurs did it going for gold a couple of years back, so even the very best can have this accident.
Yeah, a little bit of airtime.
Yeah. Well, fast, smooth and silent St. Moritz will be blessed respite after this. And the Marambel gets off the sled, feeling very second-hand. 2 to go next is Romania's Dorin Velicu. Second World Cup start of the season for him. Caught up the Romanians after training, still trying to unlock the secrets of this track.
Yeah, it's got a lot of tricky parts to be able to get the speed. The S-curves really help you to get the speed and set you up for the Kreisel.
Well, he's not got a bad start. Only 1100s behind leader Thomas Dukurs at the start, so 15th place. But already down into 19th as he gets to the Kreisel.
Yeah, you see both of his toes driving on the ice. One to steer down and the other to counter.
Bed's leader still trying to find his way down this track.
Lots of height and echo. Two large pressures in there for him.
Way wild, and you can see now how much slower the sled looks. Instead of doing 73 miles an hour, it's doing 66. There's Andy Marambel walking in. There's the Romanian coach. Dorin Velicu gets 26th position. Got away with that though, but furious with himself.
Yeah.
Did he get up in the woodwork here, I wonder, in echo? Let's take a look.
Oh, he goes really high on that first pressure.
Oh.
And he like almost made a second one even worse. Just a roof kiss.
Good as. Runners might actually have been on the woodwork there above the top of the ice.
Yeah.
Yikes. Okay, Dorin, onwards and upwards to St. Moritz. Still a little bit of snow falling at the top of the track. It's come back at the bottom here as well as rain. For our final slider, the USA's Kyle Brown. Like a number of the athletes, this is only his second ever World Cup race.
Yeah, he's a very quick starter.
Chat with him yesterday between the heats of the women's race with the Americans who came over from Eagles to watch the action here. 479.
Not a bad start at all for him.
Yeah, you need that in your armory, don't you? Especially when you're in the tail of the field on a wet, soggy day, trying to break in.
That's a very nice exit out of S4.
Top 10 at the moment. This could be a really, really life-changing run for Kyle Brown.
Nice timing on those steers. A little bit of a skid on that last pressure.
Not great speed. 18th place after the Kreisel.
110 kilometers.
And that should be enough to keep him in the race. No, 21st place. He's just drifted out. And his speed is ebbing away. Not enough to make it. So close, but he doesn't get in. 52.7. He had to get inside a 1 minute 28. He got a 1 minute 38. Just a 10th out. And Elizabeth, that'll be one tiny brush with the wall. That made the difference.
Just a tiny skid. It could be tiny to send in love back home. Hits that bump and it just skids him just a little bit. And that's a big bump into the bend away wall.
Yeah, just a fraction less of an impact there. One maybe toe steer less in the Kreisel or down the bend away and he'd have been in.
Love you, Meg. Good luck.
He is right on the bubble though. He's going to make the big time soon. So our first heat is over. 20 sleds are in. 8 are now spectators. And the man they are chasing, of course, is Dukurs. It's no, not Martins. It's Thomas Dukurs who leads after the first heat. What a tight group we've got. Top 3 covered by 500s. Martins Dukurs in 4th, 1500s behind. Can he claim World Cup gold number 4 of the season? Or will Thomas step up from being in the shadow in the silver medals and claim his first win of the year? And will the weather have an effect? Well, here's how the first heat has shaped up. Thomas Dukos, Nikita Tregobov, Alexander Trechikov, Martins Dukos. You feel sure the medals that come from them. Axel Jung, the junior world champion, perhaps just outside. 8 nations in the top 10. A massive shotgun smashing of times from 10th on down is going to see loads of action in Heat 2. Yuki Sasahara clings on. John Farrow and the rest of the 21 to 28 group, I'm afraid, will be watching from the sidelines, as will Elizabeth Archer of Canada. My thanks to her for joining us and talking us through the race. Her first time in the World Cup at Koenigssee, her first time on TV with FIBT TV. We'll see you for Heat 2 shortly. Stay with us and catch all the action from Koenigssee. Until then, from me, Martin Haven, thanks for being with us. We'll see you next time at Bye for now.